When I clicked start streaming on OBS, it went live instantly. I didn't even wait. What the hell? Alright.
Let me bring up this shit. Oh. Lafayette. So we're live?
Yeah, we are live.
The only ones in here is me and Nightbot.
Yeah, I know, Yoshi kind of ran away. And that's no good. Hey, Sam.
And someone evil.
Hey, Dragoness.
Oh, and the dragon is blue Spitfire. That's cool. Sambe is evil though.
I wonder if he speaks chaotic neutral, though. You think he does?
I don't know, start punching out some windows and spawn out.
Pelvic thrusting.
Oh,
But yes, as the title implies, we will be doing some Alexander normal farming. We already cleared turn 1 yesterday, but we didn't really get to do much. So today we're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Streaming and farming. Yay!
What the fuck? Hold on. Aren't you loading? I'll throw us in.
What armor is that? It looks cool.
Ah! Fuck
Oh,
you,
it's the robe of the
Spotify.
Black Griffin. Okay. Black Mage. Ultima Horns. Carpenter. What do these look like, Linda? Wow. They look kind of scary. Like. Hey, Neon. You totally need to level Black Mage, do PvP as Black Mage.
What?
Those gloves totally make me think of like a dominatrix. It's fucking weird.
What goes?
The gloves of the Black Griffin.
God damn it.
What? God, what?
Spotify's not working.
Oh.
I'm gonna have to get me some music through another method. Oh, there we go. I need music.
Just running around in
I'm gonna-
Idleshire at the moment while I wait for Neon
That
to
is
use
just-
Shrimpton.
I'm adding special guests to the call. I tried to fucking... By the way, I might not be talking too much in the stream tonight because my stomach's killing me.
That's fine.
I just forgot that they're you and their will.
Ah.
Dun dun da 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 da. I'm in the fucking house.
Yeah, well, I'm in Idleshire.
I'm in Weasel Cheeks.
I don't know why I
Not
came
really.
out to Idleshire, to be honest with you.
Cause you like greeny butt cheese. Greeny butt cheese. Just waiting.
How many more esoterics do I need? Let me go check. Sprint!
I will devour your souls.
See, I told you they're evil. And they like greeny butt cheese too.
No. Alright.
I'm evil.
Esoterics. Uli.
So,
I should probably go and change character.
are you wanting to do this on the Alexander shit?
Well, any way to get my esoterics capped without having to do fractal
Oh.
continuum for the 60 millionth time will be better, I suppose.
I'm only 140.
So-
I'm only 140 esoterics away from getting my Welkin pants. Huzzah!
Cool. So, Serena, we're spamming Fractal Continuum, right?
Yep.
I
No,
will
no.
kill you.
We're actually spamming Aurum Vale with minimum autumn level requirement.
Hey
Actually,
there,
I would
cheese
prefer that.
crackers.
Not me. I can't
Interesting.
stand
I
it
actually
again.
don't mind.
I can't stand Aurum
I don't mind
Vale.
Aurum Vale at all.
The color scheme in there makes me feel drowsy, and it's just like, ugh. It's just the entire dungeon just makes me feel completely uneasy. It's like, I'd rather do Fractal. I don't mind Fractal Continuum. Not one bit. How you doing, Cheese? My mic is soft up, but that's... Oh, it's because it's pushed back. Hang on. There it goes. Is that better?
I'm gonna
Sounds
mute my
okay
mic
on
now
my
'cause
end.
I'm fucking dying.
Well, my mic
Or
was pushed
perhaps
further back
mine
on my
is
desk.
too loud.
Oh no, yours sounds fine to me. But my mic was pushed further back on my desk, so that could be what it was.
I am on...
Oh, nice, Cheese. Although it's been a while, dude. At least I think. I don't know if you saw any of my Far Cry stuff, have you? Yeah, I'm getting out of Vittleshire. I don't want to be here longer than I need to be. I'll come back when I have enough esoterics. Screw this place. It lags me like a mother. Jeez. Oh, that's
Really?
great.
That's surprising.
Well, it's because it's the new Mordona, that's why.
Yeah. I was mentioning that to Kaylin earlier.
Which, by the way, I don't know if you know this, Sammy, but Rowena's actually in 2 places at once. It's kind of weird.
I know.
I get what? Just watch. Just freaking watch. Maybe later on in an expansion, Essie will be like, "Oh, that's Rowena's twin sister." It's like, really? You're gonna pull that? Like, all right. Like what they did with the 3 Bremage brothers, from the 3 city-states when you start the game for the first time, or start a new character. I mean.
Or it'll be some crazy ass quest about us having to track down a doppelganger.
Yeah, true.
What? It's the Hildebrand quests all over again.
Who knows?
They could integrate it into the Hildebrand.
Yeah. But I've been doing Far Cry 4 lately, so in case you were interested. Because our friend Hector got that for me a few weeks ago. Finally got around to doing it. How's the game audio? Should I turn it up some? Turn it down some? Because it feels really quiet to me on my end.
I must say the volume sounded fine before I joined, so I feel like maybe my my microphone may have knocked something off. I don't know.
No, I was talking about my game audio. I have it turned down.
Oh, that was fine when I could hear it anyway.
Give me a go, God. You are. Well. I already have one of those banks. I would give you to the white mage. Oh,
I haven't had the chance to say nice outfit, by the way.
thanks. Oh, there we go. Cool. You will not die on me today, man. Apparently I had my master volume down to like 40. I'm trying to back up to 80.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Game audio should be a lot better now, I hope. But I can always turn it back down and adjust it as needed.
Indeed.
I like how sometimes you take fall damage there and other times you don't. It almost seems like it glitches when you do.
Well, it's because you come into contact with the side of the sort of shoot thing, and when you go into contact with it, it acts as you standing on a ledge, so you are actually dropping less distance.
Nice, Cheese.
At least that's what it would seem.
Hi, Cheese's friend. Or, client, I guess. I don't know.
Client.
What do you call that?
He's not Paul Heyman.
Oh no, seriously, what do you call the kid that you're babysitting? Or the babysitee or baby... I don't know. The employee?
A kid.
Ay, dove?
All right. I like doing the mech. Although that said, I haven't done it in a couple of weeks, so maybe a little rusty.
All I know is I'm staying away from Savage. What are that's useful?
They still haven't cleared Alexander 4, have they?
I don't
Alexander
know.
4 Savage.
I don't even know anything about A4. I know a little bit about A1 through 3 Savage, but not 4. 4.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. We haven't heard anything about it, so I assume they haven't cleared it. 'Cause you
Aye.
think they would make a big deal out of it?
What I think is really, really scary, though, is in normal Savage, or normal Alexander, where A4 is so much, like, exponentially harder than the other 3 turns, it really makes me wonder what Savage has to offer.
Yes, considering how difficult A3 Savage apparently was, I would dread to think.
Something about A3 has me a bit riled up, because from what I've heard, there's this really weird mechanic in the game, or in that turn, where if your healers are not DPSing at all, it instant rages. Like, what? Why? I don't know if that means that the damage check is so tight that happens, or if there literally is a mechanic in there that says if it's not getting hit by a healer damaging as well, then it gets pissed off. I'm betting it's because the damage cap is so damn tight. That's what I'm betting, because that's ridiculous.
Well, either way, you do remember I speculated that there would be, because they added so much DPS into White Mage, there would actually be a DPS requirement for at least one fight on a healer. I remember saying that before
Yeah,
it
but
came
that's
out.
Savage. Savage doesn't count. And I'm not going to count that type of content because that's geared to be hard. That's geared for you to bring everything to the table and still push your buttons. So I'm fine with that as a point. It just means I'm staying the hell away from it. But all the same, though, it's one of those things where doing that tells me that Astrologian is going to get a buff, or Scholar and White Mage will get a nerf, because as it is right now, Astrologian is basically useless in Savage. They can handle A1, but that's it, apparently. Because A3, there's way too much damage output for Astrologian to keep up, and they can't keep up with the damage either. So, yeah. I think Astrologian may get buffed. But we'll have to wait and see, I think. Ooh, I would like to have Sims 4 myself.
Well, I find it kind of pathetic, really. One of my main reasons for wanting a Sims 4 is that you can make your sim have a professional esports career.
Oh, wait, why
I just want to go through that and see what happens.
Oi, I was not paying attention to you being in the mech. That's another thing I hate about this turn. Like, if you don't pay attention, you will end up giving the driver the freaking card, and you're like, no! Why don't they give it to you? Like, pay attention, damn it. Makes me kind of wish that the person in the car would get a buff that, like, shows the mech or something that's in a car. You know? It's like, ah! Because sometimes you just can't know at a glance, you know?
Yes.
Alright, now. Give that to the ninja, as shown.
Let's just apply a quick debuff.
I actually know several people named Chris. Sorry, I'm trying to glance back at the chat every now and again.
I always feel incredibly guilty when I actually miss one of these bombs. Because I offer to do it so much.
Thankfully, though, in normal it doesn't matter too much, but apparently in Savage, you need to be spot on with that shit. Also, your mech actually has a self-destruct button now, which is necessary, apparently. Like, A2, not 3. But yeah, like, it's absurd all the stuff that I've been hearing about from Savage mode. Like, yeah. Like, I will stick with this, thanks very much.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what Yoshida actually said when 3.0 was released. He said, well, it doesn't matter if you don't clear everything, because that's not the way that the game was designed. The game was designed for people to be comfortable with certain levels of completion, and for them, that's completing it 100%.
But the thing that's pathetic about that, though, is that's only a blanket statement, and obviously will not apply to everybody. Because if you're someone like me, you do want to complete everything. It's just you're not in the position to do so, either due to lack of personal skill or lack of a good group, or you're just too damn socially awkward. Because attitude does make a huge part of it as well. See, me personally, I feel as though that I do have the skill. Give me enough time and you know, enough patience, and I guarantee you I'll clear anything and everything this game has to offer. The problem there is, though, I don't think it's worth it. It's not worth the headache. Especially not if you're in a group going for world firsts or whatever, which I don't give a shit about anyway. I just want clear. So maybe if they nerf Savage, I might give it a try later on down the road, but right now, we can fuck off. You know?
Well, you have to ask yourself, did they nerf Savage Coil?
They did, actually, yeah.
Well, then they probably will. Probably around the same time frame, to be honest. I think that's their intention.
Well, it was either they nerfed it or better gear made it easier. One or the other. But I'm pretty sure they added the
Yeah,
echo.
because I don't remember hearing about it, I'll be completely honest with you.
Well, like, my biggest thing is I want to complete it at least while it's relevant. Because, like, say for example, I were to go do Savage Alexander when the item level is 3 million and, you know, the character level is like 700, and I go in there with, like, undersized party mode, which would ignore all that, and I just crush it. Wouldn't feel the same. It's like, whatever. At least I can do it at that point, but not the same. But all the same, I don't really care anymore. I really don't, because the attitudes of a lot of these in-game raiders, like to me personally, it's just it would suck the fun out of it for me. So it's not a matter of can or cannot. It's a matter of I don't find that fun. And like I understand that people do find it fun. Just to me, I don't get how they find it fun. Because I mean, it's just like wow. You know what I mean?
If I had to hazard a guess, I would venture that perhaps you feel that they're sort of treating the game as a job
Partially, yeah.
over anything else. Ooh, I actually have a chance to get stuff here.
I allotted on everything because I didn't need anything from turns 1 or 2 this week. Outside of getting gear for other classes, so I'll just lot on everything. Turn 3, though, I need to be careful because I need a spring from turn 3.
Oh, marvelous.
Ew.
What?
I got nothing. Absolutely nothing. Rare.
No, 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 no.
Good. Okay. You alright?
Oh, that was a relief. I received a rather strange message which worried me. I received the pedal, which is my second pedal, which means I can now get the feet, because I've not really been trying in Alexander. But then I also saw, your inventory is full, loot abandoned.
Oh.
Which isn't true, because I still have space.
Then it wasn't.
In
it
fact,
wasn't
it
inventory
actually shows
full.
me having 2 pedals.
It was unable to obtain item, abandoning loot. That means that you actually won 2 items. Because you had the highest lot on 2 items, but since you can only get 1 item a week per turn, it was like, oh, you already have one, you can't have this. So it was going to the next highest bidder.
Marvelous.
Yeah. I've gotten that message a couple times, too. Especially if, like, 2 cranks dropped and I allotted them both and technically won both, I would see that happen. So, yeah. False alarm.
It's certainly a relief.
Yeesh. I can understand that. Go into the
Indeed.
entrance hall, players. Players. Were you able to get anything, Vel? I didn't get jack shit from turn 2, but I don't mind skipping it. Like I said, I don't need anything from it, and I can go back to it later. So, yeah. I don't care. Awesome. Wait, which lens did you get?
Yeah.
Let me see.
I remember I lotted high on one of the lenses, and so considering I got that message, I'm guessing I got
Okay, that was
the
one I
highest on
rolled.
that one as well.
Yeah. Alright, I was worried that Vel got the one that I rolled 80 on for one of the lenses. Because I, like, rolled an 87, I want to think. Let's see. You roll need on the pedal. Pedal, pedal. You got the pedal, lens. I rolled 14. That's the... okay, 76, and then, yeah. And then the bolt, I rolled... On the bolt, what did I... Oh, 64. Yeah, alright.
I'm not quite ready yet. Gordian part exchange. I'm assuming it's in the first part, because it always is.
Yeesh. All the mage stuff's in part 2. I don't know... I really don't know if I like them doing it that way. Because they've basically got tanks and melee in one group, ranged in another, and then mages in the other one. And I'm like, why? Why not just have one for Disciples of War? Just, that's it. And then one for Disciples of Magic, and then that's it. Why do we have to have Disciples of War 1, Disciples of War 2, Disciples of Magic? Like, why? Isn't that more server strain and more server load? Like, I don't get it.
No. No, it's not, because you're essentially splitting up the war category into 2. It's easier to load one category at a time than it is to try and load a huge category of what would typically be two different categories smashed together.
Well, I guess, but you know, thinking about it logically as well, there is a plethora of disciples of war, because there's tanks, there's all the melee, and then there's all the range. So you have warrior, paladin, dark knight, dragoon, monk, ninja, bard, machinist. I feel like I'm missing one. Can't think of it though. And then then you have black.
Dragoon. You said dragoon.
Yeah, I said dragoon. I think I said it first. Yeah, because I said warrior, monk, or warrior, dark knight, paladin, dragoon, monk, ninja, bard, machinist. I think that's it for the physicals. And then you have obviously black mage, summoner, and astrologian astrologian, white mage, and scholar, and scholar, astrologian, summoner, black mage, and white mage for your mages or magic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I guess in a way it makes sense, especially since certain one of those is some of them are unique to that type of class, I guess. I don't know.
Which means we're probably going to get more color mages. I would venture. I would say that was pretty much a strong possibility.
Yeah.
Red, I don't believe is going to come in. Blue, however, I do.
Blue mage,
I think they're going to do some interpretation on blue.
I think blue and red mage, while both could be viable in this game, both would be really, really hard to implement given their unique playstyles. Because red mage, it's weird that you would say unique with red mage, because they're not unique. That's the thing about a red mage. They've never been unique, not really. But the thing that makes them unique is they can do a little bit of everything. Well, supposed to be able to do a little bit of everything, but I don't want to get into that because everyone defines red mage a different way. But for me personally, I feel that without tweaking the way the game works or adding in a new distinction to the Holy Trinity, then red mage just would not work in this game. There's just too little space and there's too many limitations, so they'd have to overhaul the entire fucking armory system just for red mage. They're not going to do that. Either that or find a creative way to implement it. But blue mage, on the other hand, that one would be odd too, because in the history of Final Fantasy, they've always had the single most amount of spells in the game, because they could get pretty much every single enemy skill in the game. But at the same time, I just don't know how they would do blue mage unless they did like a spell bullet thing. Where...
Well, what they could do... go on.
Well, see, what I was thinking is they could have blue mage be set up in a situation where they have 5 different stances, or however many stances that they want them to have, right? And these stances would unlock several new weapon skills. So, like for example, they could have Amorph stance, which would then let them do things like fluid ooze, the Amorph type moves, like the fluid shot, fluid spread, those kinds of things. And then have one called Dragon stance, where then they have Flame Breath, Ice Breath, what have you, the Dragon type moves, Granite Shower, whatever. And then, like Beastman stance, wherein they have Ixals or the whatever stance, or a mix of, the mix thereof. And have it where all their moves actually change depending on what their stance are. But that would be complicated. Just convoluted. I don't know. I can't think of how they could do blue.
Yes.
Although, there is one kind of way I could see them doing it. But they could not give you any enemy skills at all through leveling progression. I feel that every one of those would have to come through the job quests for the blue mage. And then have all your leveled abilities be other things that actually improve your fighting, new weapon skills, but then your spells are gained purely through the job quest, because at least that way there's a narrative reason for it, because maybe the job quest could have you go watch a very specific beastman tribe or a very specific enemy for a while and do quests involving that, so that you're studying them, you're becoming one with them, you're learning their mannerisms, and then this, that, and the other. Because I don't see them being able to do blue mage in the traditional sense, where you go find this enemy and then you see it use this specific move, and then all of a sudden you learn that move. I can't see that because of the way this game works. No other job gets their abilities that way, So I don't know.
Well, Velany does bring up a good point.
Bill said something?
Yes.
Oh.
It would be she believes it would be a form change. That's how the moves work. It changes their moves that way, and I agree.
Sorry,
Now,
I was on the wrong tab. So
this sounds kind of crazy. This sounds kind of crazy, but this is my thought. I think that they will get a stance change if they come into the game. They will be melee, I think.
Yeah, because that's another thing that Blue Mage was iconic for.
Yeah, and what I think will happen is, if you notice, you know how the buffs on Astrologian are sort of RNG? I feel that perhaps the moveset will be RNG within, like, say if you've got a particular stance, like an amorph stance. Okay, there's particular moves within that stance that will put different debuffs on. You know, stun, slow, silence, or whatever. And I think what would be quite good is if those moves, you didn't know which one you were going to get when you had the stance. And whatever move came out could do any number of these different status effects. And that way you basically went through learning a plethora of different stances, and it would just randomly throw out an enemy ability.
Maybe.
And that way they could actually get around having to code in every single enemy ability in the game.
Well, you wouldn't have to get every single enemy ability in the game. But I gotta say, I think my favorite iteration of Blue Mage probably comes from Final Fantasy XI, which they could not do in this game, by the way, unless they found a way. But basically, the way that it worked in 11 was you went out and you got X number of spells, but then depending on how you set your spells on your bar, because you could only set so many, because of their I forget the name of the thing, but it's basically a blue magic point system where you could only equip so many.
Sorry, I'm going to have to stop you for a moment.
Go ahead.
Cheese, I'll see you later.
Oh yeah, I saw that,
Cheese
but
gotta
I figured.
leave.
Yeah, I saw that, but I didn't respond to it because I wasn't sure how long ago that was. I wasn't sure if he was still around. But yeah.
Oh, actually, it was 9 minutes ago. Oh no, a minute ago.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
When you're gone.
Yeah, take it easy, Cheese. Anyway, as I was saying, and depending on how you equipped your blue magic spells, you could get different job abilities, different job traits, not abilities, but just traits. Like, if you equipped a certain combo of spells, you could give yourself native dual wield 1 only, but you could do that. You could give yourself native double attack, native triple attack even, I think they had one. You could give yourself auto regen, auto refresh, different things like that based on how you equip your spells. But to to limit that, Blue Mage got zero of their own. To counteract that, there you go. But to counteract that, Blue Mage had 0 of their own personal traits. They got nothing because it was all dependent on how you equip your spells.
Yes, and I think gathering spells would actually be handled through job quests, but it would be done in much the same way that you would get it from 11.
Maybe.
And I think it would be quite RNG whether you actually get them or not within a certain time frame.
Now that I don't actually know, because that would be really hard to implement. I feel that it would basically be where what would happen is you would go into this instanced thing or a cutscene where it actually shows your character like crouched down in a bush somewhere, just watching the enemies do their thing in their natural habitat or whatever. Or maybe some of them would require you to disturb their nest so that they're fighting you ferociously, but through battle with that type of mob, you might learn its habitats that way. I don't think they would do RNG for learning, because that might, interfere with the coding. It might break things. So I would think that it would be guaranteed for you to get it, but you'd have to do different things to get it. I don't know.
Well, actually, it's not entirely... They could do it in a very different way, though. They could treat the learning of the spell as the dropping of a key item, which then had to be traded in to complete the quest, which gave you the ability.
Yeah, that could work. But at the same time...
That's basically how you could get around that.
Yeah, true. But all the same, I really don't know. I think Blue Mage could be implemented, but like Red Mage, there'd have to be some major tweaks to how the game works, I feel. Or maybe they could... Ooh, actually, another thing they could do is treat it like Blue Mage was in Final Fantasy X, more specifically Kimahri, wherein if you used a certain move, in this case Lancet, which drains HP and MP from the target, a very small amount, minuscule in fact, but in doing so you learn their moves if they have a learnable move. So that would show, then the Blue Mage would have to use Lancet on the target to get their moves that way, or something. They could do something similar to that. Or, now that's an idea. They could give them nothing but pure weapon skills and things like that. Maybe weapon skills based on certain other creatures, but then only give them something called Lancet. And that's the only thing that makes them a Blue Mage, right? But what they have to do is, whatever mob they're fighting, they can use Lancet, and say there's a 50% chance that Lancet will become something that mob uses, a spell that mob would use, right? Like, say you're fighting, I don't know, Bahamut in Final Coil of Bahamut, and you use Lancet on him, there's a 50% chance you might get, I don't know, Ankh-Morn or something. And you would release a lesser version of that. But that would make summoners mad because they have Death Flare, but I digress. But it's something like that, because that way, it would still make Blue Mage be Blue Mage. You would still have the RNG element of learning the spell, but it would be in a new way. And it could be unique and interesting.
What if... okay, this is going to sound quite strange. You were in a dungeon. Okay, this is a case in point. And when you entered the dungeon, you had 0 spells at all. You basically had the equivalent of an entire bar's worth of metronome from Pokemon, right?
Yeah.
But what happened was, after you defeated an enemy, because obviously you'd have to pre-buff some of them, so you'd have to get some from the field to take in with you. This is how this would work. When you defeated an enemy, you would get a random move from them, which you could then use for the rest of the dungeon, or for a specific period of time, which would then expire. But however, I would think that using a character's move against itself would be weaker, and it would probably take less damage. So you'd have to perhaps take the move from another mob and bring it into a boss fight and use that, or have a collection of mob abilities that you would then take in.
Maybe, but what worries me
and
about
do it that way around.
What worries me about that way though is Blue Mage would be so random and so gimped at first that it would have to bust its ass off every dungeon to the point where people would be like, ugh, it's a Blue Mage. So I don't think necessarily that it would work that way. Alternatively though, they could add, say, like, a brand new gear slot specific to the Blue Mage. Maybe instead of a job crystal, they get gems that they can equip. And maybe each one of these gems house different abilities from that mob. So their spells then would be dependent on what gem they had equipped. And they could have, like, 2, maybe 3 or 4 empty slots that would be filled automatically based on what gem they equipped when they entered. So, like, you could have the Soul Gem of the Blue Mage of the Amorphs, or Soul Stone of the Blue Mage of the Beastman, that kind of thing.
I just had a thought on it, and it's kind of strange. What if they combined Red Mage and Blue Mage into one class that was named something completely different?
They actually have had that in... They actually have had that in Final Fantasy before. It was actually Scholar, if I'm not mistaken, in Final Fantasy III. Or was it Sage? I don't remember.
Yeah,
well, but yeah.
Welcome back. By the way, yeah, how I would work it is... Well, Purple Mage.
Well,
actually, that'd be a good name for it. You know how Udyr works in League of Legends?
Sort of,
with
yeah.
the stances.
Well, yeah, that was kind of like what I initially said.
Basically have Blue Mage work in the same way, but they would be, like you said, the Amorph stance and all this kind of stuff. But only specific stances could be activated at specific times, and you'd have to meet a certain criteria and able to be able to do it. Otherwise, pretty much, yeah. So, and you would basically have it so, like, one would be completely enfeebling, would not do much damage. One would be completely damaged, would not do much enfeebling. One would be buffs, would not do much of the other two, and so on.
One would be healing.
But basically make
and
it.
One would be tanking.
But basically make it so difficult. But basically make it so difficult to change stances that you'd have to choose. you'd have to choose before you went into a fight, and you were stuck with it.
Maybe.
But then you could change again once the fight finished.
Maybe, but I don't necessarily...
Because otherwise, if you give... I think if you give the Blue Mage all of those things at once, it's too powerful.
Right. I don't think they should have everything at once, like you said, but I do agree with them being able to do certain things to get it, like certain combo enders, maybe. Because the thing is, like, if you have it set up to where they're locked in to a very specific stance during that fight, then what if they accidentally switch to the purely enfeebling one? Now they can't do jack shit for damage, and they cannot switch out of that now during the fight. It's like, oh, well, fuck. And I mean, yeah, that's a gamble you'd have to pay, but then that would make Blue Mage useless. No one would use it anywhere, ever. Nope, they wouldn't do it, just because of that. What I think is, I think they should be able to switch at will, but not at will. Like, it shouldn't be, like, as simple as, oh, okay, we need damage, cleric stance. No, it shouldn't be like that. I think they should have, a certain order of weapon skills they would have to perform, similar to the Mudras with Ninja, that would allow them to attune to that Beastman type. And then, like you said, have, like, an enfeebling one, a buffing one, a healing one, a tanking one, and a damage one. That kind of thing. That way, they're extremely dynamic, and it flows.
For that one, you'd have to take out the healing and tanking one, and you'd have to make the buffs, the abilities themselves, much weaker.
Well,
to be honest.
Not necessarily, because you could also add in different things. Like, for example, the tanking one would reduce their damage by 30% while increasing their immunity. And the only reason I'm going based off this is because you mentioned mixing Red Mage and Blue Mage together. So that's what I'm trying to bring to the forefront, because then, it would have to be able to do a plethora of different things and have to be able to switch not so much quickly between them, but enough to be dynamic in the fight so that it can pick up the pace. Like, if a DPS goes down, it can bring up its damage through the roof, but it cannot stay in this stance very long. Maybe, it's doing massive damage, but as it's dealing damage, maybe it's sacrificing a little bit of its health in the process, or maybe all of its attacks suddenly start using mana, so they have to be very, very careful with how they spam their weapon skills or something. And then, like, if the tank dies, maybe they can switch into their tank stance and then start tanking. But naturally, they don't have as much HP or defense, so they would have to only be basically a sub-tank. And if they go into the healer mode, their heals should not be anywhere near as potent as a healer. But just strong enough that if one of the healers go down, they should be able to pick up the slack, And that's kind of thing. I think that with proper balancing, it could work, but it would have to be... They would have to find a way to do all that without making it convoluted. And overpowered. Or underpowered. That's why.
Unless you gave them some sort of sacrifice mechanic.
Well, that's what I was talking about. Like, if they weren't to the damage stance, maybe their HP or mana would drain in the process, and they would have to be very careful with how they dealt damage.
Because I think what would happen is, if, for example, they went into a tanking stance, their HP, I think, would be able to double, but their MP would go to 1/10 of what.
I don't know about 1/10. I
feel
feel
to 1/10 of what it was.
I think maybe what should happen is, I think if they went to a tanking stance, I like that idea, by the way. If they go into a tanking stance, their HP should go up by 1.25%, so 25%, similar to what Defiance does. But then their mana should go down by 25%. I feel that would be a bit better, because if you make their MP go down to like 1/10, that's really not a lot to work with. But, they're a mage. They gotta have mana. So I think, if anything, their mana pool should be equivalent to that of a paladin. Or maybe slightly better than a paladin's, since their HP is not going to be as good, or their defenses aren't going to be as good.
And I think if they're DPS, if they were going DPS, their HP would have to be cut, and their MP would have to be boosted.
Maybe, but that depends on what type of DPS it would actually have. Because if it was a physical stance, I think it should be similar to what the tanking stance does, but less dramatic. Like maybe a 10% HP increase, then a 10% mana decrease, something like that. Because if they're melee, they do want to have the HP.
I don't think it should have any form of heal outside of a self-heal anyway.
Yeah, maybe, but... Or, if it does only have that self-heal, at least find a way to change it so that it is an AoE burst, just in case they need that, sort of like a utility version. But they can't use, like, Medica 2, or, like, it can't be spammed. It could be like they use a certain weapon skill or a certain ability, and it modifies it to be an AOE just for that burst.
Well, what I would say with that is if, say, for example, make it work like 1,000 needles, but in reverse, basically. In fact, you could actually base it around 1,000 needles. Say if the self-heal healed you for 1,000, if you were around 4 other people, so it was 5 people being healed, it would only do 200 each.
Maybe, but that's really low. Really, really low.
That's the thing. You're only a DPS. You're not supposed to be healing that much.
Right. But that would be the idea of it being a red mage, though. It should be able to do exactly that, because here's the thing: it's a backup healer, so it would need to heal a significant amount. I mean, think of it this way: Paladin's not a healer, but yet it has an extremely potent heal with Clemency. And they have, they can't spam it because it takes like a fuck ton of their mana, of which they barely have any to begin with. But they can get their mana back so fast that it's irrelevant, thanks to Riot Blade. So I mean, I think they should at least have a heal on par with that, without being overboard.
And the thing is, I also think this: they should have a move. And I know this is going to be completely counterintuitive, but considering all the mob moves that you think of, Final Sting, Self-Destruct, all of these different moves, they all kill the people using it. There should be a move that gives Blue Mage an enormous amount of damage, but kills them in the process.
Basically, Mijin Gakure. But what's funny about that is I love the way that 11 handled those exact moves that you were talking about, most notably Self-Destruct. Because you're right, it's supposed to kill the caster. And in 11, it kind of does, but it doesn't. When you cast Self-Destruct in 11, your HP goes to 1, and you automatically get the weakness status. But you don't actually die. It's fucking funny.
Yeah. So I think Blue Mage should definitely have that, to be honest. Actually, do you know what? I think that could actually be the Blue Mage limit break. Basically make it a hyper version of the Black Mage limit break, only it kills the Blue Mage in doing so.
Yeah, but in order for that to even be worth it, it would have to do a ton of damage. Like, it would have to have a modifier that does normal limit break damage and then multiplies it by like 2. Or something.
Yeah, I would say that. I would say take the Black Mage limit break and basically increase the modifier 10 times.
That might be overpowered. I think it should be
have it summon a giant shadow version of the Bomb King and blow up.
I like where you're going with that, but it's a limit break. It's meant to be used in emergency situations. So I feel as though it might be more beneficial to do melee limit break damage and just double it, because that's going to be a massive freaking hit without being, too overpowered. But all the same, I don't know if I would agree with it killing the Blue Mage, because that could actually be overly risky, and with a limit break you don't want to be super risky. You're already risky as it is, considering how long the animation is and the fact that you're not invulnerable. So with that in mind, I don't know if kill would work, but maybe a long stun. Maybe after they use it they get down for the count for like 5 seconds or 10 seconds or something.
No, I would actually say kill, because there are a lot of classes in other MMOs, and I know this isn't another MMO, it's 14, but if you look at, for example, World of Warcraft, that has the Warlock class, they have a lot of moves that basically fuck them, quite frankly. They are basically dead when they use them. It's kind of ridiculous. But what they get in return is a massive bonus to whatever they were doing. So, yeah, I would say kill the Blue Mage. We're doing it, but it gives you a absolutely enormous boost.
But if that's the case, then I don't think it should be the limit.
I think it would be worth it. I think it should, because I don't see it being put on a lesser ability, because no ordinary ability should be that powerful.
Unless it had a really long cooldown. Case in point, that you give that move a 20-minute cooldown. But all the same, though, it's one of, because I'm thinking of these scenarios where what if, like, the limit break would kill the boss, but the blue mage was the only one left alive. So there's a good chance that the limit break would go off, the damage would calculate, but then the blue mage would die before the boss actually registered as dead, thus resetting the run. Whereas, like, if a melee was alive, they could use that, kill it anyway, and there you go. See, that's the thing that I'm running into.
That's the risks that you take with organization.
Or like, maybe, just maybe, if the blue mage is the only one left alive, have a secondary effect where if the blue mage uses that limit break with him being the only one left alive, maybe it revives at least one other party member, or maybe revives everybody, but makes it to where the blue mage cannot be revived, a la Spiraler from Final Fantasy VI.
Why don't you make a mixture of a healing and damage move? A big ass AoE damage that also heals the party.
Well, yeah, I mean that could work, but that could effectively.
I think for that it would definitely have to kill him.
Yeah, but all the same though, that would almost exclusively make the healer LB useless, and it's almost useless as it is.
Exactly.
I didn't say revive, just heal.
Yeah, but what are you going to do in a situation? Oh, well, I guess in that case, if it was, if the blue mage was the only one left alive, then it could revive. But otherwise, it doesn't revive and just heals. I could see that happening. But they would have to have a special trigger.
There's too many
says,
conditionals.
Well, that's what I'm saying. How could they,
Honestly, Square doesn't like that. They wouldn't do conditionals. If you know them, I think we do.
They did a shit ton of conditionals on 11, though.
Ain't the same crew.
It's not the same crew.
I wanted it to not be like that. It's not.
I thought the team that made 11 was part of the team that was helping revive this game. Because I know they brought in the original.
Just because they're helping revive doesn't mean they have that type of control.
No, I know what I was thinking of. The original team for 14 was basically a bunch of green guys, so they didn't do so good. I don't know why Square trusted them per se. But then what they did is when the game was super broken and everybody hated it, that's when they brought in the 11 crew, the guys that worked on 11, and they were making the game better, but they could not revive it properly, to the point where SE even cycled them out and brought in Yoshi P. That's what that was all about. Yeah. Because, I can't remember his name. Tanaka. Yeah, Hiromichi Tanaka was working on 14 for a while.
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, the fact that we're coming up with all these ideas is pretty cool, to be honest. I don't know.
The big problem, though, with 14 right now, at least the way that I see it, is the fact that it doesn't exactly leave a lot of room for versatility. I mean, it does, but it also does not. Because it's almost like D&D 4th edition, where every class can do everything, just about it. Because, like, healers can DPS, hell, even tank a little bit if it's a lesser mob. Monks, DPS, have ways to heal themselves. Tanks have ways to heal themselves and deal damage. Basically, every class has a way to enfeeble in some form or another, heal in one form or another, DPS in one form or another, and tank in one form or another. So, it basically, with 14, the way it's designed, is basically D&D 4th edition right now. So
honestly, my problem is not even with the classes. Go on.
So I don't really know what they can really do. Like, in that case, how could they add Red Mage or Blue Mage and bring about the concept of versatility when every class can pretty much do everything at the moment?
Exactly the problem. Honestly, I think a larger part of the problem, and I know it's something that you and Valony have less of an issue with, is the fact that the content right now is very formulaic.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of ridiculous. I mean, we're back doing the same thing we were doing 6 months ago. Only it's different dungeons, but we've done those so much, we're getting bored of them anyway. But it's all they've done is change the name of the currency. And to be honest, in the case of the monk, all they've done is recolor the bloody equipment, up the stats, and change the currency name from, I think it was soldiery to esoterics. What have they done that's new? I don't know. Perhaps I'm too pessimistic.
I'm pretty sure everything will be a bit better once they actually add back in the relic weapon system. At least it'll be better for me anyway, because at least then I'll have a goal that I can actively work towards. Because right now, like, okay, I never had an issue with this back in A Realm Reborn, in any of the story patches or anything like that. Like, when they added new content, yeah, I get bored of it, but I always felt like there was something I could do. I could log in and just do stuff. But right now, while I can still log in and do stuff, it's like none of it's particularly interesting, like none of it. And I have no ultimate goal to work towards, no relic weapon per se, no anything really. So whenever I actually finish things like Alexander for the week, it's like, oh man, I got nothing left to do. And it's just like, when you're looking forward to the reset just so you can do more Alexander, there's something wrong there. So
they're essential. Sorry, go on.
I didn't have this issue with A Realm Reborn, but I think that's because the newness of the game was there. You know, there was something to be said as like, ooh, I get to play 14 again, and you don't really care. But now it's like, okay, I've been playing 14 for this and this long, and Heavensward basically feels like A Realm Reborn 2. Like, all the content's there. It's basically A Realm Reborn. It's none of the innovations we were making in the patches. It's just A Realm Reborn again. And what that ends up boiling down to is nothing's really interesting. There's no newness there to carry it. It's just, oh, it's a thing. I did a thing. And then it's like, you have Savage Alexander, which is ridiculously strong, ridiculously hard, and, you know, then you also have Alexander, you know. I mean, sure, you could say that we have Bismarck and Ravana EX, and you'd be right, but even those don't feel all that interesting if you don't have a group for them. And the fact that they haven't opened up those to the Duty Finder yet is like, wait, what? So, it's basically them piling gear, piling on more gear, and then piling on even more gear still, and then locking it behind only the Party Finder, and making it overly hard anyway. And I'm like, this is not how I want my 14 to go, but it is how 14 is going. Ugh.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, if you change the dungeons around, if you forego that, and bearing in mind a lot of us are pretty bored of the dungeons anyway, how is this any different from, say, the gap between 2.3 and 2.4? We're doing the same stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean...
We're actually doing the same stuff we were doing back then.
Well, like, for me, back in, like, when it was just A Realm Reborn, and there was, like, you know, all we had to do was farm philosophy and myth, right? There was something interesting about the myth grind. I don't know what it was. The dungeons that we had, while they were frustratingly hard, they were only frustratingly hard because we kept fucking up. It wasn't that they were actually hard, it's just that we were kind of shit. We didn't exactly know how to play our classes very much. Like, me and Vel were riding on the fact that we played all this in A Realm in 1.0, so we thought everything was the same, and it wasn't. We didn't even bother to relearn our classes. We just kind of like went and did this, you know, we went and did things. So we didn't exactly know how to optimize what we were doing as we were doing it. So things like Amdapor Keep were ridiculously hard, especially since, for whatever reason, it seemed as though people expected you to know how to speedrun right away. So it boiled down to, you know, not knowing exactly what you could do and being expected to solo God, basically. Ain't gonna happen. So basically, the content in A Realm Reborn was a situation where it wasn't necessarily hard, it just took skill to clear. It took competence. Only now, with things like Alexander Savage, it's not about skill per se. I mean, it is, but not to the same degree. It's designed to make you make mistakes, so therefore it's no longer, oh, I fucked up, and oh shit, this is actually really fucking hard. You know?
It's luck, to be honest.
There is a degree of luck in Savage, from what I understand. Because the DPS, like...
And honestly, in anything that is completely, you know, important to the game, as in it is a core thing. Making anything look-based is kind of stupid. It's something I would expect from a card game because, well, it's a card game.
You can't get around the luck element.
They try and you can't get around that. But for an MMO, that's kind of short-sighted. Because that essentially means you're going to have a lot of people wasting a lot of their time. And it's really stupid.
But in an MMO,
I really don't understand this logic.
Well, it's to keep you playing longer, basically.
Actually, that's the whole thing, to keep you playing longer. So actually, from the MMO standpoint, it's genius.
But
that's how you keep them playing.
Here's the thing.
If you give them everything that they want, they have no reason to keep paying for it.
But all the same, though, I would prefer... Like, if they wanted to do that, I would prefer them to say, like, okay, you need 2,000 of this one thing. And you get this one thing guaranteed every kill. So kill this thing 2,000 times. Versus, go do this one fate. And go do more fates, because this thing might drop. You know, I don't mind a little bit of RNG on occasion. I really don't. But to the degree that 14 and other games similar to it do, it aggravates me.
It works on people the same way gambling does. That's the reason why they do it. It's actually smart on their half. You might not like it, but you can't say that it's not smart.
Yeah, pretty much.
No, I believe it's very smart, but there will come a time when people realize it. That's the problem.
And they'll move on to the next game that does the exact same goddamn thing.
Only worse.
Yeah, but it's all about short-term game, really. Whereas 11 really wasn't like that. I've noticed, which is weird because I'm very critical of 11. I think there's a lot of I thought there was a lot of stuff wrong with it.
Well,
but it never put me off this much.
Well, the thing
put me off a lot more actually.
The thing with 11 though is everything was party oriented. Everything. So realistically, the only thing that was actually keeping you back from doing these things was actually getting a party. But it wasn't so much that the content was necessarily difficult. Some of it was ish, but not really. As long as you had the gear for it,
the bulk of it wasn't
competent, you could do it. But all the same, like there's only 2 examples I can think of shit that was actually near impossible. That was actually genuinely difficult in 11. And that was Absolute Virtue and Pandemonium Warden. And in fact, I think those guys are still legendary even today. They're easier now that the item level, or the level is 99 and you get item level, I think, 119 now, or whatever over there. But those guys were still hard, and in fact, I think they're still hard-ish. I don't know. But
let's throw in some fairness with that, though. So, a lot of that isn't because they were actually hard, it's because the amount of time it took to take them down, not the amount of difficulty.
No, they actually were hard.
They were fatiguing.
No, they were hard. Mainly because there was this one thing with Absolute Virtue where he kept using different players' limit breaks, and that also could mean he could use Benediction on again and again. So it was very, very cryptic with how you had to handle that, and people still aren't sure. And that's why they kept begging SE to release a video on how do we beat him, how do we do this. And that's when that's when the video showed that if certain players use their 2-hour at the right time, when he was in a certain stance or something, it would disable that 2-hour. So what you would have is once you kill Jailer of Love and Absolute Virtue spawned, you would basically have a group of white mages ready to sort of chain Benediction, or to cycle Benediction. So to prevent him from using that, he could use every 2-hour in the game. So he could he could use Mijin Gakur, he could use Call Wyvern, he could use 100 Fists, he could use Mighty Strikes, Invincible, Benediction, and he would always use Invincible plus Benediction. That was part of the combo that he would use. So yeah, he was genuinely hard. And the fact that you had to kill Jailer of Love first, which meant going through, collecting every item in C to spawn all the other jailers, beat all them, get all these other 7 sins to be able to then use to spawn the Jailer of Love, beat the Jailer of Love, which wasn't a pushover in his own right, beat him, and then directly after you fight him, while you're weakened, mind you, like all of your resources are spent from the Jailer of Love with no time to rest, here's Absolute Virtue. And no one could beat him. Like, I don't think anyone downed him for like 3 years. Ever.
Well, I can tell you part of the problem why a lot of people didn't, because they were thinking too much of a traditional MMO standpoint instead of thinking... That actually shows Final Fantasy's roots kind of spawning from Dungeons and Dragons. Because that's a very D&D, I'm fighting a god-esque fight. You know that, right?
Yeah, but...
They're meant to be cryptic as fuck and make you think.
Right, but here's the thing.
I still found the modus viritus.
Huh?
What was it?
What's the thing?
Modus Venitas or something like that.
No. You said here's the thing though. What was the thing?
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah, I get that they're supposed to be cryptic, but here's the thing: you don't exactly play with your 2-hour. Who's gonna think to use, oh, if I use my 2-hour, it might lock his out? No, because there was no other example of that in the game, and it's a 2-hour. If you use that and you're wrong, you cannot do that again for 2 hours. So naturally, people wouldn't have thought of that. And even then, I don't know if that's even true. I don't even know if that can work. I don't even know if that did work. I don't know if that was confirmed. But people tried it, and it seemed to have worked, so that's the only thing I have to go on. But even still, like, he was next to impossible. And the only way that they could beat him is through glitching. No one ever legitimately beat him, to my knowledge, for like 3 years. And then never mind the fact that Pandemonium Warden was worse. Pandemonium Warden, if you did so much damage to him, he would swap out forms, come back in a new form, and at full health. And
what makes Pandemonium Warden famous, though, is people almost died trying to beat it in its original form.
Yeah, because they straight up fought him marathon style for over 18 hours.
Yeah, and to clarify for anybody's stream, when I say die, I mean in real life, not in game.
Well, yeah, because they had to sit there.
Fatigue.
Exactly. And worst part is, they had a massive pool of players there. There was more than just an alliance of people. Like, there was an alliance of alliances there, basically. Like, there was so many people. There were over 100 people there, rotating in and out of the party as people got too tired, too fatigued, or their mana in-game, their resources were too low to be swapped out for another player to step in and do this. And they had over 100 people fighting this thing constantly, swapping in and out of parties to try to down this thing. They fought him for 18 plus hours and just could not beat him.
Can I throw in something real quick, though? This is where they drop the fucking ball. This type of effort for a chance at a drop. Not a guaranteed item for a chance at a drop. This kind of effort is what we're talking about. No. They dropped the fucking ball. That's some bullshit. You don't have people almost fucking die of fatigue and then give them nothing.
They didn't even beat him, Tom. They didn't even beat him that fight. They had to give up.
I know.
They had to retreat. And could you imagine how disheartening that would have been? Oh.
To have beat it and no drop.
You know what, though?
Think of that.
No. Here's the thing. I would have rather had that. Because you know what? We beat him.
Whatever dropped it.
Fuck, we beat him. No drop, though, but we beat him.
Well, no, actually think from another standpoint. Whatever drops, with that many people getting that fatigued and pissed, they're all going to be fighting each other over who that item belongs to. Think about that.
Yeah. Either
Doesn't
way,
even matter if they can't use the item. It's simply like that it took them that long to beat it. They'll be arguing over who gets that damn item.
well, hell, you know as good as anyone, Neon, it took me over 18 hours to beat Yasmont in Final Fantasy 12 the first time I fought him. But granted, that was fighting him
Yeah,
cold,
but you could
not
pace
really
that differently.
knowing what to do. Well, yeah, I mean, because you could leave the arena, and if you left fast enough, his HP wouldn't regenerate, run to the save point, save, shut the game off, come back, and he's going to be at the exact same amount of HP you left him at. However, if you let him go back to his arena and de-aggro you, he starts regenning like a motherfucker. And that was another reason it took me 18 plus hours, because I didn't realize that until after the third time I had to reset him.
I just did a bit of research on Absolute Virtue.
Yeah.
And there was definitely the modus viritus bug. That was what I was trying to talk about earlier. That was kind of hilarious. How they managed to break Scholar that much to make that work. Yes, the 2-hour lockout thing is a real thing. What happens is you have to perform a specific 2-hour to lock Absolute Virtue out of all the 2 hours. So, for example, if AV uses Chain Spell, a red mage in that alliance then has to use Chain Spell within the next 2 seconds, which will then lock out AV from ever doing Chain Spell again.
Yep.
Now, here's the funny thing. If you lock out Call Wyvern, then Absolute Virtue will also not be able to use Familiar or Astral Flow because they require pets as well.
Yep.
It actually locks all three out. And it actually, once it's locked, it'll stay locked even through Diagro.
Yep.
Once thought, and here's the thing about the difficulty. Once thought nigh invincible, it is now, but the difficulty is lowered thanks to level cap increases and the use of Perfect Defense.
Yeah. When Summoner got Alexander, Absolute Virtue became a bit of a joke.
Yeah. Basically, to beat it, you need to lock it out of doing Benediction.
Yep.
Otherwise, it can't die.
I would say Benediction and Invincible.
Well, no, Invincible ain't that bad. It only lasts for so long before...
Well, I mean, with
It
Invincible
falls off.
as well, it's only physical attacks, so your mages can still nuke them. Yeah,
Well, yeah,
Benediction is
it's got a
imperative.
set time for it.
Yeah, I would say Benediction would be straight up imperative. Perfect Dodge and Invincible are negligible because it only blocks physical. It doesn't block ranged or magical. Well, Invincible blocks ranged. Perfect Dodge doesn't. At least it didn't used to. I don't know if they ever buffed it, but it doesn't block magic. See,
I still need to do my expert roulette for the day. Go on.
Well, see, that's what made Paladin so scary back on 11, though. Especially if they were geared to the teeth and had like a maxed out Aegis, because the amount of damage they would take was basically nil. Because the Aegis had a 75% block rate, and when it blocked, it had the strength of a size 4 shield, which was no other shield that could reach that size in the game, which means it blocked 75% of the damage dealt, from the block, or was it 99%? I can't remember. But it blocked so much of the damage, it was ridiculous. And the Aegis in and of itself had magic damage taken minus 25%, and that was just a level 75 version. I think it got up to 40, maybe 45% magic damage taken, which is right at the cap, basically, because you can only take 50% reduced damage from physical or magical from any means. So, yeah. So that means Paladins were pretty much nigh and invincible in 11. Especially with their self-heals, too.
Mm.
Though I can't remember if Paladin had access to Stone Skin. I know they had Protect, I know they had Shell, I know they had Cure, and I know they had Raise and Banish. I know they had and Holy. I know they had those, but I don't remember if they actually had Stone Skin or not. Oh, they also had Phalanx too. Well, they didn't have it natively. They did get it eventually, though.
Yeah. Now, here's what I'm quite curious about, and that is, we talk about 11 now, even after, well, for me, 4 years of not playing it. For you, 3 years of not playing it. I can't remember.
Well, about a year
no,
now,
4 years because I stopped. Well, yeah.
Because I did remember, I did go back when Seekers
'cause
of
I-
Adoulin finished, and I used the free week. Which, that being said, 11's on a free week right now. I could go play it if I wanted to. But I've got no reason.
I really don't want to anymore.
Yeah. As I said, I've got no reason to go back to
I
11.
got burned badly with that. No, but you know, we still talk about 11, however many years after not playing it. I don't think I'll be talking about 14 a few years after stopping playing it. I don't think it's as noteworthy as bad as that sounds.
Well, part of me wants to agree, because even though I love 14 and it is my, I guess, home right now, it's also, it doesn't feel like home. Because, like I said, Eorzea doesn't feel alive at all. It's just like, oh, it's a hub world. Ugh. Whereas in 11, every zone you went to, at least for me, every single one felt alive somehow. I don't know how. Like, everything felt organic. It felt good. It just felt like you wanted to be there. Here, the graphics are better, so obviously it's prettier, but it feels inorganic. It feels empty. It feels bland and boring. But here's the thing about that. Eorzea felt great in 1.0. Whether or not you liked 1.0, Eorzea felt alive back then. Now it's an empty shell.
Though, to be honest, for me, back when I played, 11, I felt the same as you, you know. But after playing it again, for me, I realised it was because it was my first MMO. Really, I mean, I played MapleStory and I played World of Warcraft for like a month, and I didn't enjoy it. You know, it was my first serious MMO that I'd ever played, and so I sort of felt this attachment to it. But I realised, after going back during the Seekers of Adeline thing, which is the last thing I ever did, a lot of that luster was completely lost, and it wasn't because the game was bad anymore. It was because I'd seen other games now that were better. And not in terms of graphics. Not in terms of graphics, in terms of the experience that it gave me. And I think, honestly, the way that we look at 11 is with a bit of a case of rose-tinted glasses, you know. I think we look at it almost too fondly because we can't help it. But I think because we're older and sort of more cynical now, as bad as that sounds, we won't look upon 14 with the same fondness because we're already critical of it. We're already picking it apart. Because we live in an age now where everything anyone ever does gets picked apart instantly. Whereas back then it wasn't really.
That's true.
You know, 2009 when we were playing, 11, social media was nowhere near as big as it is now. You know, Twitter wasn't around, Facebook wasn't as big as it is, all of that kind of stuff. So opinions didn't spread as fast. And criticism and bugs and all this, or rather news of bugs and stuff like that didn't spread as fast. So people aren't as critical back then, or they weren't. Whereas now, they pick apart everything with even the slightest thing wrong, which is good. You don't want to let shit slide. But it also ruins our sense of wonder, I think. Like for example, all you have to do is look at, and I know you like this series, and I'm not knocking it, I'm just mentioning it. Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask. Okay, the capabilities of that console. Theoretically, it should have been a hell of a lot stronger than the PlayStation. But the textures on it, and the graphical fidelity of it, and the way that it played, while everybody loved it at the time, if that came out today, even if N64 graphics were the normal standard, if that game came out today, they would have hated it. They would have hated every moment of it.
It certainly wouldn't have been the 99 on Metacritic, but I wouldn't say people would have straight up canned it. Because it is still a good game at the end of the day.
I think a lot of people would have, and I think it would have been about a 50 to 60% game in terms of rating.
Possibly, but that's only because people nowadays are jaded. If you ask me. But all the same, though, like I said, Ocarina of Time is a good game. Like, I could go back right now and play through it just fine, and, it feels as nice as it ever did. And, like, a good example is when I went back to 11 for, the free week when they finished Seekers of Adeline, because I wanted to finish that myself. It still had the same luster to me. It still had that feeling of home. Like, I felt like I could get lost in Vanadil again. I felt like I could just go to Upper Dupfoot's Tower and just farm away, same as I always did, without a care in the world. And I felt like I could do that. What stopped me, though, was I knew that if I did, I wouldn't have completed my goal. So, I mean, 11, to me, and it's not just because it's my first MMO, mind you, because it's not. Because, like I said, I have played a game called Tibia, and I've played other games online prior. But it was the first MMO that really sucked.
Tibia was a mud, though, not
I
a
know that, but it's still the same concept.
Well, if you could put that into perspective, then it's not my first MMO either, because I played MapleStory. And that's actually more of an MMO than Tibia was.
That's kind of true. But what it boils down to, though, is, to me, 11 still felt like that home away from home. It still felt just like that amazing world that I wanted to visit again, and I was glad to be there. Everything I was doing just felt as rich and as clean as it always did back then. And I could say that you're probably right on the whole rose-tinted glasses thing. But when I say things like that, though, and even though I critically panned 14 myself, something could be said about the way Eorzea felt back then. Like I said, I hated the game originally, even though I wanted to like it. I desperately wanted to like 14 back then. But I just couldn't. But I loved the way Eorzea felt. It felt so good to be in Eorzea that I wanted to explore it. But what pissed me off is that I couldn't, because of bad game design, or bad monster placement, or just awkwardness in general, because there was those times where you're like, I'm fighting these level 15 creatures, I'm gonna go around this corner. Holy fuck, a level 90, what the hell? You know, and it's like, what? Or in other cases, you would see a level 60 amidst, like, in the same, the very same camp that you would have a bunch of level 15s, you would see a level 60. And you didn't know it, so you pulled it anyway. I mean, yeah, there was a lot of shit like that that made the game feel just broken and bogus, but all the same, something can be said about the flora and the fauna of that game. It felt alive, whether or not I liked it or not. So I can't even say that about rose-colored glasses, you know?
Yeah, but I think as we grow older, we do become more cynical. And I don't know whether that is for the better or worse. I don't know whether we actually see imperfections and stuff, and that's a good thing because we need to catch it out. Or whether we're seeing them as a bad thing because living in ignorance, we would have enjoyed the games more. You know, and I don't know which one that is, to be honest. But I know nowadays, if 11 came out today, with the issues that it had during its launch, it probably would have been panned worse than 14 was. Because I know it was pretty horrible at the beginning.
Well, yeah, like in the Japanese version, which was the first, you know, when it came out, it was out in Japan for like a full year. It was abysmal at launch. And I never got to play that version because it wasn't available in the States. It didn't come out over here till a year later. In fact, we didn't actually get the game until, I think, 2002, when it first came out on PC. Or it might have been early 2003, I don't remember. But I know I started playing December 15th of 2013. 2003, my bad, not 2013, whoops.
I was gonna say, wow.
But yeah, like I played it before that at Neon's place. So I played it for like a month or two from his place whenever I'd go over there. But I didn't actually get Serenia and play my own game until December 15th, 2003. Why do I always low-lot on shit I actually want?
Hey, you got the shaft.
Yeah, I got the shaft. Literally and figuratively. Because I wanted the springs. And I'm like,
oh, I got a spring!
32. 93 on the shaft. I was like, god damn it. I basically lotted the shaft because...
Hey, I did the same thing. I failed on the shaft which I wanted, so...
Yeah, well, there you go. But yeah, like I said, I wanted the springs, but I lotted on the shafts because turn 4 is the only one that drops them. And then I can get the spring from turn 3, so... Well, all I have to farm now is turns 2 and 3. Well, technically turn 3. I don't need anything out of turn 2, but it'd be nice to get my item from that turn. So I can have it.
I still need the chain. And the spring and the shaft. And I think a bolt, so...
Yeah.
Getting there though, I don't really care.
Let me see how I'm doing on currency. Still way short. I still need like another 110, I think, on my esoterics to get my Welkin pants.
I'm actually going for the pants first over the body, because I think the pants look a lot better.
You haven't been capping your esoterics?
I think yes, I'm going for the legs first.
You should.
The legs are the same price as the body.
I know that, but if you've been capping your esoterics every week, you should have already had one or the other.
The weapon.
Oh, right. I forgot you got the weapon. Sorry.
Yeah.
Goof.
Hey, I forgot about the weapons.
I'm at 650 with 290 out of 450 for this month week.
Nice.
So I need basically if I cap this week and just get a little bit next week, I will have my legs.
Interesting. That makes me wonder. Because I'm at 190 out of 450 for this week. And that means I can get another 360? No, 260 extra esoterics. And that'll put me at... never mind. It'll put me at 975. Yeah, it'll put me at 975, which means I will be, annoyingly, 15 short from getting one of the weapons. So,
Yep.
at that point, well, really, I feel like I should pass on the weapons anyway, because I don't know if those weapons will be required in getting the new relic weapons. And since I already know that I'm going to be going for those relic weapons, I might as well just pass on those weapons. Because that way I get my
Whatever it is required, aren't you going to be kicking yourself?
Well, not really, because then I can just go for the weapon. You know. But at the same time, I don't know if that'll matter too much anyway, because I have a Nirvana Zeta. And because I have that, it's entirely possible that I could skip on the weapon anyway, at least for White Mage.
They'll probably let you do it for White Mage. So that means you'd only really probably have to do it for Astrologian, if anything.
Exactly. And then
Which that wouldn't be that bad anyway. That's why it's not a bad thing that I have the fucking Deathbringer, I guess. Dude.
Exactly. So really, the only weapon that I would want to get outside of wanting them for glamours would be the Astrologian's weapon. But I plan on getting its relic weapon whenever I can. So, yeah.
I actually like the way the Deathbringer looks. I haven't looked at the Astrologian's esoteric weapon.
It looks really cool.
The monk one looks awful.
The Dark Knight one's really cool. I like the way Deathbringer looks, especially when you have it out, because it goes through different, like, glowing on it.
Though if you don't like the monk
strobe
weapons
light.
so much, Sam, I'm surprised you haven't changed them out. Not changed them, but glamored them.
Honestly, I don't really care. I don't play the game that much, weirdly. I literally get on, cap my esoterics, then log off again. That's how boring the game's gotten to me. I'm literally only logging on to cap my esoterics or play with you guys.
Whereas, I mean, I still find more enjoyment than that myself, personally, but, it's, I at least look forward to Alexander, honestly. And right now, I mean, don't get me wrong, the esoterics...
I got plenty of things to do. I don't care.
The esoterics are helping. Not, you know, not to say the least, but the esoterics are helping, but the fact of the matter is we still don't have the big thing to work for. And it is still really aggravating that SE keeps freaking gating stuff that should not be gated behind the raids. And it's so annoying. Because, like, I don't care. I straight up don't care that the raiders can get... You know, here's the thing. I wouldn't even care if the Alexander Savage gear was 220 and the augmented Esoterics gear was 210. I wouldn't give a shit about that. It would annoy me, sure, but at the end of the day, I wouldn't care. Because they did the raid, they did the harder content, they deserve stronger gear. Okay, fair enough. But what bothers me is that they're double dipping. Because the only way to get the shit to upgrade the Esoterics gear, you gotta do Savage. The only way to get the gear from Savage Alexander is to do Savage. And that's like, no. Bullshit. No. I don't like that. I have not liked that ever since they did that shit with Second Coil. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. That is absurd. Don't do that. Because it's why? Why would you do that? You know,
before they make it so that you have to go through Savage to actually get your relic.
that right there would
They
actually
won't do that.
yeah, that right there would actually make me want to boycott the game. Like, no, you're gonna do that shit. Fuck off. No, something for everybody.
That
huh?
defeats the purpose of. That would defeat the purpose of the reason why they added the relic to begin with.
Aye.
Well, it would, unless they don't add Savage coil weapons. Oh, not Savage coil, Savage Alexander weapons.
They are. The actually thing is, there is Savage
There
Alexander
is.
weapons.
Yeah. Because no one has them, because no one's beat it.
And the thing is, no matter how unlikely something is or how bullshit something might be, there's always a possibility. You can never discount that.
But like I said, if they ever
It's
did
true,
that,
'cause
I
there's a
would.
possibility they could give me a giant mech to ride around it.
As I said, well,
I get that.
like I said
And
though,
purely that.
there is a chance that they would do that with the relic weapons. But if they ever did, I would be willing to boycott the game because that is when it goes bullshit, bullshit. Because the relics are meant to be the equivalent, or not the equivalent of, but the alternative to the hardcore raid equipment. And it's like,
Because the thing that's given me this theory, I'm sorry to cut you off, is the fact that, do you remember back when nobody was doing fates?
yeah,
So what did they do? They gave us a load of content which basically forced us to do it, right? So, only the best of the best, quote-unquote, are doing Alexander Savage right now. Because the others don't even want to... Most other people don't even want to attempt it.
because it's too damn hard.
So what better way to force people to do, or to make people do it
Or
than
quit
to
the game.
make it their only option?
Well, no, that's the thing. There's the difference there, because you got to look at the original Cole and stuff. The reason people aren't doing Savage isn't the same reason they weren't doing Fates. The reason they weren't doing Fates is because they were bored with it. They didn't want to do it because they found it boring. The reason they weren't doing Coil is because they thought it was too fucking hard.
Well, the thing is, like,
So
with-
that's
another thing with Fates, though, is it wasn't so much that they were boring. I mean, it was, but it's that they were really, really, really sparse. Because, like, you might see a one
Yeah.
Fate in the entire zone every 15, 20, 30 minutes.
so they increased the frequency and
Yeah, but they
it
did
balances stuff out, man.
right, but they did that, Neon, after the fact that they started making us have to do Fates to get our weapons.
Yeah.
You know, but even still, they kept having to tweak that over and over and over again. Because they made it to where the more people doing Fates in the area, the more they would spawn, as opposed to them all being static triggers. But I would honestly prefer them to be static triggers. Like, I would rather it be, okay, this Fate spawns X amount of time, every 15 minutes, every 30 minutes, every whatever. Because that way, you could plan around it. I didn't like it when they changed it to a gamble like that, where more people doing Fates, the faster it'll spawn. Because that sort of made an unhealthy lottery machine. Because you couldn't go away. Because there was always
No.
that chance, that one Fate that you needed for your hunts. Or whatever. Or for your relic weapon. That one Fate, you've been waiting there for 3 hours. You need it to spawn, it doesn't spawn. You step away, AFK for like 2 seconds. 2 minutes. You come back and that Fate popped and was killed while you were gone, and you didn't get credit. And you're like, motherfucker.
I can see them incorporating the Guild Hiss.
I don't think they would incorporate the guild hests. Not to the relic, anyway.
I can see them doing it.
They did it to the main scenario, which kind of makes
Oh.
sense.
Honestly, I wouldn't put anything past Essie.
Well,
Because honestly, a lot of the stuff that I say will probably never happen. But I am presenting the worst case scenario that might happen. You know?
Well, the worst
That's
case
kind of
scenario
my
is they
thing.
could force you to have to go through the hardest content with every class to get a weapon for one class.
now that
Okay.
right there, Neon, is where I would be like, nope, done, bye. I'll take my service elsewhere.
I'm the only person that wouldn't find a problem with that. Okay, I got this. I'm not bothered.
And you would be the only person left in Eorzea. Or maybe, like, you would be the one of a handful. Like, maybe there'd be 15 people
Me
left.
and the weird ass fucking hardcores are like, hey, I got my fucking extreme weapon for one class now. But that's cool. How long do you take you? I ain't discussing that.
How many birthdays, weddings, funerals, christenings, baptisms, everything did you miss?
Doesn't matter. I got it. I deserve like some type of award. And my award is my weapon. What the fucking hell are you doing, Max?
It is still too hot. So I'm tired of running around the
One
house.
thing that I didn't. Yeah, I'm
What?
kind of tired of jumping around in circles.
Yeah, Neon.
I'm
Beaver.
running on top of the fence. What are we doing? We went
I
through
don't
all of
know.
Alexander.
Notice I said farming.
Ex-
I still need drops from turns 2 and 3. Sam still needs a shaft.
I still need the drop from turn 4. I still need to work on my bard more.
Because theoretically, I actually got my drop from 2, 3, and 4, so I only need 1 now.
I can
This week.
go in on fucking locking this if I want it. Fuck that shit. I don't want to though, because people be like, you ain't doing enough damage. Suck my ass.
Yeah, I could do the same, and that's the same reason why I won't.
My Machinus is I 178 though. So I got that going.
Actually, no, I couldn't. Mine's only on 164. Oh.
I could drop out of the party and just go farm turn 2 and 3 if that would be
Ow.
better for you, Neon and Sam.
No, I can.
I can help. We can help you. We don't
Yeah.
mind.
I'm trying to get a dog off from me.
Just in case of doing something.
Yeah, because I'm
Trying to get
streaming at
them
the
off.
moment, and so far I've only done turns 2, 3, and 4, and it's taken an hour and a half to do all 3 of those when it should have really only taken like 40 minutes.
I'm getting puppy assaulted. Give me a moment.
Right. Somebody queue us up. Doing something.
I'm switching to Paladin.
Fuck it. Load up Heroes of the Storm. Play that.
Alright, I'll throw us into all 3 of them, because fuck it. And fuck turn 1. Because I'm done. Fuck that.
Even though Sam needs turn
I
1.
need turn 1.
I'll throw us into turn 1 in a bit.
Douchebag.
You don't need it.
He actually does.
You should have been
It's
doing
the only
it
one I
all
do
along. Wait, which one do we get? We got the fucking arm, didn't we?
That's turn 3.
Isn't this the one that we all got a piece from?
No. I still need a spring
Wait.
from this one.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure.
At least I'm pretty sure I didn't get any drop from this one. Let me check.
If
Motherfuckers!
we did, I'm gonna. If you did, I'm gonna kill you.
I didn't.
Why? Why be a doofus? Whoa!
I mean, this is easy, but it's easily the most boring.
I love this one. This is actually the most fun one for a tank. Because it's active for a tank.
I find it pretty interesting too.
Because literally all I have to do in this is, all I have to do is punch things, which is well, that's typically all I have to do anyway. But
Yeah.
I can stand there and do nothing.
I guess that's it.
It
It makes
requires
sense. It's
the
the
least
most boring
amount of
one
effort
for a
to make.
DPS. But it's the most exciting one for a tank. Whereas every other one's kind of like meh for a tank.
Except for turn 4.
I like turn 2 because I get to operate the mech.
Actually, turn 4 is awesome if you're off tank.
Yeah. Although not in A4S. Because apparently quarantine is a nightmare.
I'd probably still enjoy it. But I'm not a normal individual.
I don't know anything about A4 Savage. I totally want to know about it.
Whoa.
So, like I said, based on what I've been hearing,
I
I
don't-
almost guarantee that Astrologian is going to have a buff in its future. Or they'll either nerf White Mage and Scholar, or they'll nerf Savage Coil in and of itself.
And yet you still play Astrologian more than you play White Mage. Why's that?
Just hard to say, really.
You're just not feeling White Mage anymore.
Well, ever since Heavensward, that's more or less been it. Because when White Mage lost its identity, it's like, it's just like.
Well, actually, if you want to look at it this way, they essentially did a red mage to white mage in a way, because it has no uniqueness, but that is its uniqueness in a way because it is the best at doing something that everybody else can do.
But the thing is,
but
though,
it is the best at it.
That's what makes it not a red mage, because red mage is not the best at any one thing. But the fact that it can do all those things is what makes it a red mage. The only uniqueness,
counter red mages, there you go.
The only uniqueness white mage has right now, and I don't count burst as uniqueness. I just don't, because everybody can do burst. Everybody can do those same numbers. It's just according to doing them. So I can't really count that. White mage is the primo healer. Yeah, it has the most ability to heal, sure, but that doesn't make it unique. That doesn't make it special in my mind. But the only uniqueness that white mage has, in my opinion, is the fact that it can stack upon itself effortlessly. You can have 2 white mages, you can have 4 white mages. It doesn't matter, they'll never step on each other's toes. Because regen stacks with regen, stacks with regen, stacks with regen, stacks with regen, and medic 2 stacks with medic 2, stacks with medic 2, stacks with medic 2, so on and so forth. Everything they do stacks with itself. Everything. And it stacks indefinitely. Whereas with Astrologian, you can only have 2. And if you have 2, one must be in Diurnal Sect and the other one must be in Nocturnal Sect. If you have 2 Scholars, it's a generally good idea to have one use Theos, the other one use Selene. And if you have an Astrologian and a Scholar, it's a damn good idea, almost, I would say required actually, for the Astrologian to be in Diurnal Sect. And if you have a White Mage on board, well, you can use either stance, because White Mage will stack with whatever. And that's kind of the only thing White Mage has going for it. It's the only healer that can stack upon itself easily, indefinitely, without stepping on anyone else's toes at all. Outside of Raze, but I don't think Raze really counts. But yeah. It's one of those things to me that while White Mage is still a phenomenal healer, that's kind of all it is right now. It doesn't have anything that screams to me other than, oh, it's a White Mage and I'm a White Mage. It's just kind of bland right now.
Oh, shit, Psycho's streaming.
Who? Oh, the Pokemon dude. Or the Blitzfest guy.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I do like, I mentioned the, oh, I can't remember what he calls it now. The thing that he does on his streams. Or have I not mentioned it to you yet?
I don't know what he does in his streams, I've never been there.
Okay. Well, what he does, actually I do remember the name of it now. He streams whatever he likes, basically. But he also has something called Chance Time. I think it's called Chance Time. Where
Chance Time!
I think it's either one day, where it's either one day of every week or at the end of every stream or whatever. What he does is he has this list of games that is selected from a list of every game in existence, basically, that for every console that he has. And what he has is he has this huge sheet with, I think, the console numbers 1 to 37. And then in every single category, obviously, there's a different amount of games, so there's a different amount of number. So what he would do is you go to a random number generator and then generate a number between 1 and 37. That would be the console. Then you, depending on how many games there are for a particular system, say like for the Sega CD, which is one of his consoles, there's only 40 games, you'd pick a number between 1 and 40, because all the games would be numbered. Whichever number came out both times would actually determine the game that he would be playing on Chance Time on the next, whether it was the stream or the next time he did Chance Time. And it didn't matter what it was, even if he'd never heard of it before. The only 2 rules he had were that it cannot be a sports title because that's not really entertaining, and it cannot be a Japanese title because he can't read Japanese.
Which is fair enough.
Anything else is completely fair game. Doesn't matter if he likes it or has interest in it or anything like that. He would do it. And that really impressed me, honestly. I found that really interesting.
I liked his collab that he did with A+ Start. That was pretty interesting.
Oh, the gold and silver Son of a Glitch Fest.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool. I forgot how broken silver was.
I didn't know they were both that broken. Shit. Like, it's so amusing how you can play a game flawlessly, find no bugs whatsoever, and think that if the game was extremely well made. And then someone comes along and is like, that's a glitch, 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 that's a glitch. Just on and on and on and on. And you're like, holy shit, how did this game get past the fucking Q&A?
It's a Nintendo game, but
But here's the thing, right? There was a glitch in silver that he did, which I've been doing for years. In fact, I did that glitch as a kid in elementary school. In fact, that's where I learned it. And that is where you have a Pokemon in your party, you deposit it to the PC,
Oh, the cloning trick,
and yeah, you turn it off while it's saving.
Yep.
What I didn't realise was there's the variation on that glitch, where if you turn it off just before the
Before it
message
saves.
pops up to tell you to not turn it off, it corrupts it.
And can give you a
I've
skeleton
never,
and shit.
that never happened to me. Yeah, that never happened to me because I always did it properly. But considering how much that can screw with your cartridge, I was incredibly lucky that I didn't do that. Really,
Yeah, really.
considering mine was on a genuine cartridge, and I was about 10 at the time, 8. Another thing I found interesting was I went on to, this whole thing about Nintendo Creator Program or whatever,
Yeah.
and I think this is interesting to talk about. I looked at their list of, because they've got a list of allowed games. You can't even just play any Nintendo game, it has to be on the list. No Pokemon games on that list.
And yet people play
So
the
either
game.
Nintendo, so either Nintendo doesn't allow it, or Nintendo doesn't have the rights to stop you.
I think
i.e.,
it's that, because
it's game free.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like
it's
how I
Game
can
Freak
play
going.
Breath of Fire. Yeah, it's just like how I can play Breath of Fire 1 and 2 because it's not Nintendo, it's Capcom.
Yeah. But people link Pokemon with Nintendo so tightly,
Yeah, in a way, Pokemon plus Nintendo is a little bit like Mario plus Nintendo. They go hand in hand at this point, but at the same time, it is actually
What is this
blatantly
share
not
about?
Nintendo. It is Game Freak.
well, it's a shared IP though. That's the thing. That's why you won't see it on any other console.
What do you mean shared IP? Is that a thing?
Yes.
Actually, if you look into it deeply, it's not shared IP. The card game, that's a shared IP. Because the Nintendo company actually runs the card game. The license for the video games isn't.
I'm talking about the property
that's-
itself.
No, because if that was true, then the Pokken Fighters game, Pokken Tournament, wouldn't be existing because that's Namco. Namco Bandai, and
crap.
Nintendo would not let them near that. I'll be completely honest with you.
I gave you the bowl thinking I had to balance.
I don't agree
Oh,
with that.
well. You know,
Oh, I can't get anything anyway. I might as well just leave.
really? 55-44. If I get either one of those, I'll be surprised. Ugh.
No, but as for letting them have access to the IP, no, that's not true.
And I didn't get either
Matter of
one.
fact, if you look at it, Nintendo's been a lot more open with letting other companies work with their IPs and having other companies work with their IPs lately. Good example of that is Hyrule Warriors.
Can you help me for about 5 seconds?
One sec.
Uh,
I think I'm gonna go ahead and take the stream down, though, guys. I'll see y'all later. Take it easy and have a good night.
Peace.
Auf Wiedersehen.